Mr. Chair, you are now live.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everybody. We'll call to order the specially scheduled virtual meeting of the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board on Wednesday, April 21st, 2021. It is 7:02 p.m. Board members present tonight are Vice Chairman Lawrence Harris. We have Dick Peterson, Elizabeth Conger, and I'm Jimmy Fraley. Also present tonight, we have City Attorney Michael Lyles and Deputy City Clerk Cynthia Gaines. We only have one matter on the board's agenda tonight, and with that, I will declare the protest hearing open. We have a protest against the renewal of an alcoholic beverage license issued to Grillfish LLC, trading as O'Brien's Oyster Bar and Restaurant, which is located at 111 Main Street, Annapolis, Maryland, 21401. The board has received a protest against this renewal filed by Stephen J. Plouffe.
Hey, good evening, Chairman Fraley and board. Thank you for your time. I'm assuming this is my time, Chairman, to...
Yeah, just a second. I'm going to make sure that that we got you in here and everything, and I'm going to have to administer an oath to you. You're the only one planning on testifying tonight, Mr. Plouffe?
I have 12 co-signers. We were kind of instructed that I was the only person that would be allowed, so yes, sir.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you. So please raise your right hand so I can administer the oath. Do you solemnly swear and affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you are about to give is true and correct?
I do.
Okay. Now, if you could please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Stephen James Plouffe. I live at 185 Green Street in Annapolis, Maryland, 21401. I'm sorry, 183. Okay. I actually got it wrong. I used to live next door. It's 183 Green Street.
Okay. Great. Thank you. And Mr. Plouffe, I will let you know that the board has received all of the materials that you have submitted. We have taken a look at everything. We've reviewed everything in completion. This is your opportunity to present your case, so I'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Chairman Fraley. Hey, I want to thank the board for taking this time. I realize I'm the only agenda item. I have 12 neighbors that are co-signers. I think they're listening in. So I appreciate your time in this. I'll try not to take too much of it. Just a little background on me. I'm a Naval Academy graduate. Once I left the service, couldn't wait to move back to Annapolis and be part of this community. My wife and I moved here in 2001. We actually purchased a property, actually adjacent, right next door at 185 Green Street, which also abuts O'Brien's property. Loved it so much that we moved next door here to 183 Green Street, which is directly behind O'Brien's bar. So I'm thrilled to be part of the community, thrilled to be part of this neighborhood. My 12 co-signers, you know, the average time they've lived here on Green Street is probably 20 years also. So this is not something new. My wife, I didn't wake up last week and say, hey, honey, do you realize after 20 years we have a bar next door? That's not the case. That's not what's going on here. Okay, so I just want to make sure you guys understand. The last time I and many of my neighbors testified before this board was in 2004, and I'm not sure who was on the board then or not, but if you can recall in 2004, Zachary's jewelry had just burned to the ground. There was another fire a little further up or further west on Main Street, and there was some concern because we observe on a daily basis O'Brien's behind O'Brien's bar. You know, a lot of flammable materials at that time in 2004, a lot of smoking going on back there then. There was concern about a fire in downtown Annapolis. So I and others came and testified before this board in 2004. And Jerry Hardesty, the owner of O'Brien's, was very open about it. It was a very open discussion about, hey, what can we all do to ensure, and then the term good neighbor policy was brought up, that, you know, there's not a fire hazard here. The impact to the C1 residential district, and if you know, can talk more about that, maybe everybody knows about that. You know, what is that impact? And to his credit, and I'm not sure if the board demanded it or if Jerry just did it, the former owner, saying, hey, look, I want to be a good neighbor. I don't want to burn down downtown Annapolis. There will be no smoking my property. He provided us the text or the phone number of the on-duty manager so we could help him out being a good manager. You know, there were certain, you know, little things like, you know, we'd observe on the second floor of O'Brien's somebody smoking. We just text the manager and that employee stop smoking on the second floor. So, a wonderful relationship. At this time, I lived at 185 Green Street, which actually has a fire appeasement exit to that property. For 15 years, we were wonderful neighbors with the former owner. Jerry called me some week and said, "Hey, I'm renovating the restaurant. I need to put all the, I think it was kitchen or some furniture need to come out." And trying to take it through the front of the building could damage it. And I said, "Well, Jerry, just move it through my yard, bring it in through the back." So there was this incredible relationship between O'Brien's and the residential neighbors that abut his property. What changed is in 2009, new ownership. And we, I know a lot of my neighbors were there. We approached the attorney for the property owner. Not a lot of conversation, didn't want to hear a lot from us. There was a talk of a garden bar. He said, no, we're just transferring the license here. So we didn't object to anything. But what we've observed over the last 2 years is a continual deterioration to what we saw in 2004, right? So literally every hour, groups, probably 4 to 7, very loud, everybody smoking, flammable materials. You've seen the pictures, I hope, methamphetamine use, just not good. And the C1 residential district is specifically in place by the city of Annapolis to protect us residents. I don't know if the owner of the bar understands what that means or what it is, but certainly the impact has changed over the last 2 years. So this is not the neighbors saying, "Hey, I woke up one day and gosh, there was a bar there." This is a new owner who moved in and changed the rules. We're not changing the rules. This is what we have observed is a very different set of behaviors than we did for the last 20 years. And truth be told, the neighbors, we want to be good neighbors. We don't want him to, even in 2004, we didn't want Jerry Hardesty to lose his liquor license. What occurred and my request now is that the issuance of a liquor license is contingent upon him observing the C1 residential conservation zoning, that he not endanger downtown Annapolis by having large groups of people smoking near flammable materials. The rat population actually exploded about 24 months ago. He seems to have cleaned up the garbage because we observe it every day. But these are the things, and we can talk about C1 residential if you like, but I'll take a break there and say this is what we've observed. And we request your help in making O'Brien's a great neighbor again. We want to live here. We want to coexist with them. We want to do them favors, but we haven't seen that in the last 2 years.
Okay. Well, if that is your presentation, at this point, I could turn it over to the board for any questions that any members may have of Mr. Plouffe or of his protest that's been filed and that you all have read.
My question is, if you notice drug use, why didn't you call the police?
Yep, and at this point in time, 2 things. Thank you. That is what we will be doing in the future. I have contacted the chief of police and understand the proper action. I've also spoken with the chief of the fire department and understand how to, again, smoking behind, this is his words, and I understand them. Smoking behind O'Brien's is not against the law. The mechanism to stop that is the Alcohol and Liquor Control Board. So yes, if I see methamphetamine use, I will be calling the chief of police.
Good, thank you.
Mr. Plouffe, have you had a conversation with the new owner about these issues?
No, I have not.
Okay. How about any of the managers or any employees of O'Brien's? Have you reached out to anybody to discuss these issues before filing this protest?
Yeah, for years and years, we had the numbers. Apparently, there's been some turnover of the on-duty managers. So these specific ones, the answer is no. I have to ask my wife, but we had the number for 20 years, and maybe texted once every 6 months saying, "Hey, can you please fix this?" And they did it. I don't know if there was turnover or him or her changed their mobile number, but no, I don't believe we've been in direct contact with O'Brien's. Now, I haven't. Many of my neighbors have. There have been letters written to O'Brien's. Yes, but me personally, the answer is no.
Okay, that was going to be my follow-up, whether any of your neighbors who have added on and signed in support of your protest have reached out to anybody.
They have. This is not a surprise to O'Brien's.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. That's all that I have. Any other board members have any additional questions of Mr. Plouffe?
Mr. Plouffe, have you documented some of these issues that you're discussing tonight? I saw a few pictures of, I'm not sure if I can really understand many of them, but the things you spoke of, the smoking and the trash collection, have you documented them and discussed that with the officials that you said you contacted?
Yeah, Boardman Harris, yes, I have countless photos. Actually, my wife has countless photos of note. In the last 10 days since the filing of my notice of concern, the behaviors have improved greatly. But to answer your question, yes, we have numerous photos. The behavior has somewhat changed. Best I can tell, the owner or the manager comes to work at 5 p.m. because prior to 5 p.m., the behavior is pretty much the same. After 5 p.m., since my concern has been raised, there has not been, let me take that back. Last Saturday night, there was a knockdown, drag out fight in the middle of the night between two employees with cussing. But other than that, in the alleyway behind O'Brien's, other than that, the behavior has changed after 5 p.m. on any given day. But yes, we have photographic evidence of all of this.
Thank you.
If there's no other questions, again, I'm hoping I'm not asking for anything contentious or challenging. I'm asking for, my neighbors and I are asking for O'Brien's to be a good neighbor and not endanger downtown Annapolis. This is not a high bar, in my opinion. But the only mechanism to do it is the alcohol and beverage control bar.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right. Do any other board members have any additional questions? All right, there's none. Mr. Plouffe, anything else you want to add before we turn to
Chairman, thank you for your time and consideration.
All right, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. All right. Next, we will hear from the licensee, who I understand is represented by counsel. We could bring them in.
Hello.
I had raised, this is Daniel Mellon. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I had raised my hand earlier to request that Vice Chairman Harris, when he is speaking, lean forward. He has a microphone like I have a microphone, where if you lean back too far, you can't be heard, but when you're forward, you can be heard fine. I was having a little trouble hearing Mr. Harris because he was leaning back in his very comfortable chair. Thank you. Daniel Mellon, I represent Kostas Alexakis, who I see has joined the video. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board. Mr. Alexakis would like to,
Mr. Mellon, before we get started on your presentation, I want to make sure that I have the opportunity to swear Mr. Alexakis in,
yes,
if he's planning on testifying, okay?
he does plan to testify.
Okay, Mr. Alexakis, could you please raise your right hand while I administer the oath? Do you solemnly swear and affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thanks. And if you could please put your name and address on the record for us.
I am at 952 Old County Road, Severna Park, Maryland.
And your full name, please, sir.
first name is Konstantinos, Konstantinos. Last name is Alexakis, Alexakis.
All right, thank you. Mr. Mellon, this is your opportunity to respond to the protest, which I'm sure you've read. Again, we've received all the documentation that you have submitted on behalf of your client in opposition, including, I believe, additional documents that you submitted or that we have received early this morning. And you can present your case by way of proffering on behalf of your client, or he can actually testify. But right now, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Quick proffer. During Mr. Plouffe's testimony, I think it sounded like he said the license was issued to Mr. Alexakis in 2009. I think he meant 2018. Mr. Alexakis bought the building that O'Brien's is in February of 2018 and received his license from this board. I think it was March of 2018. So he's had it 3 years. Costas, please address to the board your interaction with Captain Zapata.
Thank you. Thank you for having this opportunity for us to defend ourselves. This came as a surprise to me when Ms. Gaines called me to ask me whether or not I had received this protest. And it, in fact, had just arrived the night before. I think it was April 9th. I've read it with careful interest because it makes some very defamatory allegations. I would go back to when when I took over the restaurant. At the time, I think it was a very nice dive bar. A lot of noise, a lot of drinking. I think the ratio food to liquor would prove the transition that we've accomplished. We're doing a lot more food. If you look at the various chat and Google reports about the service and the food, you'll see that it has transitioned into a nice restaurant that's a destination restaurant where actually people make reservations to go for dinner. And that has taken a lot of work. So what brings us here is I had a discussion with I've never talked to Mr. Plouffe. He's right. He's never reached out to me. I would not have recognized him had I not seen his picture here with his name attached. I think, if memory serves correct, he testified during our application for a hearing for a license, again complaining that smoking and fire hazards and so on. Now, Mr. Plouffe filed this protest after he had gone to the fire department and complained about smoking. Captain Zapata, I believe it is, called me and he said, look, there's this guy complaining about smoking. Smoking is not illegal. You should provide an ashtray for your employees when they're smoking. I said, Captain Zapata, we discourage smoking. We know that we have to give people a break, 20-minute break after 6 hours of work. And we have no control about what they do when they're taking a break. However, we don't want to be encouraging smoking, and putting an ashtray out there would encourage smoking. And so that was my interaction with Mr. Zapata, with Captain Zapata. And he says, okay, fine. You know, I want you to know that I keep getting calls from the neighbors here. I said, okay, I'm sorry. We'll do the best we can, you know, to discourage smoking. The restaurant is a non-smoking environment. And so on. Now, the letter, the protest that was sent by Mr. Plouffe adds some interesting stuff. Rat population. We are contributing to the rat population. When we took over the restaurant, the pest control company would come by once a month. We now have a pest control company that comes by once a week, every Friday, They bait everything inside the restaurant. They check under every piece of equipment. And also we have traps in the perimeter of the alleyway and the outside of the restaurant in order to trap the incoming vermins. It should be no surprise to anybody that a well-manicured lawn is just as good a host to rats and mice as the sewer system. And so we do whatever we do, but everybody has to do a lot more to control this vermins because Annapolis is going through a transition right now. A lot of empty spaces, a lot of neglected spaces. There's a lot of construction. So we have to be vigilant about vermins, and we are. In addition, the trash. We have, we're a restaurant. We deal with processed food. We receive food in cardboard containers. Those containers are broken down. I think we receive them twice a week. They're broken down and then packed tightly so they can be disposed of through the Annapolis sanctioned trust contractor. And they have to be done a certain way for them to pick them up. And we do that on a daily basis. Some of the pictures that Mr. Plouffe provided were boxes of oysters. We participate in the oyster recovery partnership. We save the oysters. They're not considered trash. And then they get picked up once or twice a week at a minimum every Monday morning. We have had no violations of ABC law. We have no open issues. We are on first name terms with the captain responsible for the area, the fire marshal, I think is Jones, and also Mr. Captain Zapata. I have their cell number. We talk once every couple months, and my point to them is always, if you see something, I want to know about it. Please let me know. Protecting the building and the surrounding area is a priority for me. We've cleaned up the area. Anybody that has any one of you, I'm sure, if you have been by the restaurant, I'm sure you've noticed a difference. It doesn't smell like a beer hall anymore. If you walk inside and the bathrooms are clean, the equipment are all working. The employees are courteous, and I'm really very upset and disappointed that Mr. Plouffe chose this opportunity to lodge this defamatory attacks on us. If there's any illegal activity, if you see somebody doing drugs or engaged in any illegal activity, it is your obligation to call the police, to just take pictures to use for an attack on a business, and not do anything to bring the authorities to cure the problem. It's unbelievable to me, and I'm very frustrated about that and upset. So whether it's somebody engaged in an illegal activity in front of a church, in front of my restaurant, in front of City Hall, I think if you witness it, it's your obligation as a good citizen to call the police and to stop it. And in summary, again, there are no violations with the liquor board. I think all your inspectors will, I'm sure we've been involved in stings. I'm sure they've reported back that we card everyone that comes into the restaurant and orders a drink is carded with absolute no, not an issue there. We are a good business. We're a good citizen. We try to be a constructive force in the community, and I think that protest is scurrilous and lacks substance.
Mr. Alexakis, is it correct? You own the building, you purchased the entire building yourself in 2018?
Yes,
And you are the owner and operator of the grillfish business operating the restaurant. You're the sole owner, is that correct?
that is correct.
Okay. And you have every interest in maintaining the cleanliness of your building as Mr. Plouffe, your neighbor, has in his house next door, is that correct?
The way I put it to my employees, we meet every Wednesday, have all the managers together. The way I put it to them is this: we started out in Division 4 3 years ago. We're now maybe Division 2. Our goal is to be in Division 1. And to get there, we need to be a lot better in being clean, being safe, being courteous, and continue to improve the quality of food.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mr. Alexakis. If the board has any questions of Mr. Alexakis.
Yeah, Mr. Alexakis, I have a couple questions. In Mr. Plouffe's testimony, he said that some of the individuals who signed the protest had reached out to you previously or sent letters, something to that effect. Have you received any complaints from any neighbors prior to your receipt of this this protest?
Only through what Captain Zapata has told me. That
nobody's ever come down to speak with you personally about this?
I do not, as I said, I would not recognize Mr. Plouffe if I had not seen his name attached to the picture.
Sure, and I'm not asking specifically about Mr. Plouffe. I'm asking about any of the Green Street protestors, I'll call them, the people who.
I have not talked to anyone.
Okay, and you haven't received any letters or anything to that effect either? Not.
I have not.
Okay.
My information about I learned about this before I received. I learned that there was an issue about smoking through Captain Zapata.
Okay. And you mentioned that you meet with your staff every Wednesday. Have you discussed this protest with your staff?
Yes, since we received, of course.
Okay, and what were, just if you could summarize for the board, what were your discussions with your staff?
That smoking is not allowed. We should, so the meetings are with the 5 managers that are running each shifts. And those are the meetings that I refer to every Wednesday. And so the whole idea is that we're not a smoking environment. If there's any drug use, that's cause for immediate dismissal, no questions asked. We have to discourage smoking.
Okay. And then since you've reviewed the protest in its entirety, clearly you've seen the pictures that were attached. Do you recognize those employees in the pictures?
Yes, one of them I do.
Okay. And have you discussed this protest and these photographs with the employee that you recognize?
Yes.
Okay. And what was, could you elaborate on that particular discussion for us?
Just that there's no smoking allowed anymore in the back, no congregation, you should not be congregating in the back. And, this is, this idea of yelling, and I take it seriously. He says people are yelling and cursing. That's ridiculous.
Okay. Okay. That's all I have. Dick, do you have questions?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. You purchased the restaurant directly from Jerry Hardesty?
Yes.
He was the present owner when you purchased it?
Yes, sir.
Secondly, you say the meetings are with your managers. Have your managers brought up any of these problems? Because
they've had more contact with the fire marshal.
Yeah, but how about with the neighbors?
Not specifically, no.
They haven't told you that some of the neighbors have complained?
No, since we received the notice in April and I confronted everybody, yes, they did tell me that there's this woman next door that has complained. I don't know her name. I think she lives in the house that is in the fire lane out of the alleyway.
Okay, no, I wasn't, that wasn't a specific, I was just wondering if the managers were bringing these problems to you.
Since then, yes. Since the protest,
But
yes.
before then, no one had mentioned to you any problems whatsoever. And so they were allowing smoking out there until you said there would be no more smoking. Is that correct?
That is true.
Okay.
Not only that, the fire marshal also was telling people they can smoke there.
Okay. What
This
did your managers say about the drug use?
No drug use.
They said there was no drug use.
Right. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, licensee, from any board members?
Mr. Costas, have you had a one-on-one conversation with Mr. Block? You know, just you and him speaking and stating what the issues are and how you as two grown, mature men can just talk about it and reserve it and really take action at your level without calling in the authorities and the fire chief and the city drug lords and all of that. It seems to me like two grown men who live side by side could just get together and work out something very simple.
Commissioner Harris, if I understand correctly, it wasn't clear what you were. I couldn't hear clearly. But are you saying that it appears to you that two grown men should have figured this out without having to come to you?
The gentleman who's making the complaint, Mr. Clark, and you as the owner of the establishment in question, why can't the two of you just meet out in the backyard one day and say, hey, we know we can simply reserve this by doing this, this, and this. And then you convey the information on to your staff. He goes away and talks to his neighbors, and you guys, everybody's happy. A very simple solution to me, rather than raising it to a level where the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board has got to get involved. The only thing we can do is, you know, ensure that you are running your business properly by serving the alcoholic beverages in your establishment.
Commissioner Harris, I agree with you completely. We're in the service industry. Our goal is to make sure every customer becomes a repeat customer. Our goal is not to alienate anybody. This is how you grow your business. You make a customer who comes once a week, show up twice a week, maybe bring their friends. It's, you know, the service industry is all about building a relationship for service and quality. We look for opportunities to make friends, to resolve arguments, Mr. Plouffe had come to me directly and said, look, I've got a problem. Instead of taking pictures and putting together a dossier, after he was rejected by the fire marshal in his efforts to cause some trouble through the fire marshal's office, I would have been more than happy to have that discussion. I would have been happy to have it then. I'm happy to have it now, tomorrow, not only with Mr. Plouffe, with anyone that has any issue. We spend thousands of dollars a month trying to create a good impression on people. You know, it's our business to build the brand. That's what we do to succeed. And I should tell you, when I picked up the restaurant 3 years ago, this March, even with the pandemic, we're about 80% higher than 3 years ago. 80%. 3 years ago, people were not coming in for dinner. They were coming in to get drunk. Now people are coming in, they're making reservations for dinner. And that has come because we make sure that every customer that comes in leaves happy, satisfied. And I would have been more than happy to have this discussion with Mr. Plouffe and not take your time here.
I guess one of the things I'd like to suggest, and I kind of think Mr. Harris was suggesting that too, is that it's also important to keep all your neighbors happy. And you know, my request would be that you do get together with Mr. Plouffe and say, give him your phone number or something. Please, sir, if you have any problems, give me a call.
More than happy to do that.
Thank you.
All right, any other board members have any questions for the licensee? Okay, Mr. Mellon, anything you'd like to add?
No, thank you. Just you've seen our filings, and I request that the renewal be granted, and Mr. Alexakis will focus on that back area and make sure that it's not bothering his neighbors.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you both coming out tonight. We'll close off the testimonial portion of tonight's hearing. The board will take this matter under advisement, and pursuant to the board's rules and regulations, we're required to issue a written decision on this, and that will be done by April 24th, 2021, which gives us not a lot of time, but we will get it done. With that, I will declare the public hearing closed, and I'll make a motion that we reconvene in an executive session so that the board can discuss this.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.